I've already done a thorough review of the recently refreshed Corolla, but today I want to show you why the base version is nearly the most interesting for both good and almost embarrassing reasons. If you enjoy fun, detailed car content without fluff, consider subscribing and hitting the bell for notifications. Of course, the GR is much more exciting, but the LE is attainable without knowing a guy. It starts at less than 23 grand with destination. You may be thinking, that's not really that good of a deal. But keep in mind that a base Honda Civic sedan starts at over 26 grand these days. So why is a Corolla such a bargain? Well, it's not because of the engine. They actually upgraded that over the previous LE. It's now the more powerful and efficient 2-liter. And they also didn't cheap out on the tech or the safety. It's really just down to the aesthetics and torsion beam rear suspension. Yeah, they went back on it, though that doesn't apply to the LE hybrid, and I'll talk more about that suspension in the drive. Toyota also got rid of the L for 23, so we do have a reasonably well-equipped base model. You'll have things like LED projector headlamps. You're also going to have remote keyless entry standard, which is not smart key, though that too is available because the LE comes with 2 additional upgrade packages if you so desire. If you get the proxy key, you're also going to get blind spot monitoring and alloy wheels. Either way you go, you will have 16-inch wheels, which I'm personally happy to see because the potholes here have violent felonies on their record. If you want more curb appeal to intrigue local baddies at Whole Foods, get an SE. Before we hop inside, there's a couple other things I'd like to note. For a base model, I'm happy that this has color keyed mirrors and door handles. And I'm also frustrated by there not being a trunk lid release. Here, you're just gonna have to use the key or the button on the inside. Thankfully, the cabin was upgraded this year with an 8-inch touchscreen as standard across the board. This is going to feature Toyota's latest multimedia system, and it's grown on me a lot. It has a decent response time, good resolution, and is very simple, though almost too simple sometimes. And it also has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The only thing it's missing is a tune dial. But I am happy to see that this has analog, simple HVAC controls down here. It takes up a very little amount of space, and it's also automatic. And the buttons help it look premium. Briefly, I'd like to thank Royal South Toyota in Bloomington, Indiana, the friendly dealership that has let me test drive a few Corollas to make this video possible. The staff there are friendly, and Royal is dedicated to the community. If you're in the market, check them out. And the only other real bit of tech here is a little multi-function display thrown in the analog gauge cluster. And really, if I had to describe the interior of the base Corolla as anything, it would be straightforward. I think there's some nice lines. There's a little chrome bits here and there to kind of break up the sea of black plastics, but there's really just not much going on, and I see that as a pro and a con. The materials aren't horrendously cheap. Some of it's texturized, and there's soft touch points where your elbows rest, but there's none of the contrast stitching or accenting going on like you have in some of the other trims, and there are more hard touch plastics than you'll find in a Mazda 3 or Civic base. You're also going to miss out on things like a leather shifter or a leather steering wheel. This is just urethane, and of course no heated seats. You can actually opt for a sunroof though if you want it. You also have a 6-speaker sound system, which works okay for the small cabin. The seats here are agreeable for a lot of people, reasonably supportive, something I could see myself getting used to, though you won't have lumbar control here. By today's standard, the base model Corolla is as fancy as a last-minute hotel, but that checks out given its price. And if you're wondering, there's no rear seat vents, but there is enough space for me at 6'3" to sit behind myself, and the trunk is adequate for the class. On the road, there's not a powertrain difference between the LE and the others, unlike the previous year. We have a 2-liter naturally aspirated engine paired up with a CVT. That motor is going to make 169 horsepower, 151 pound-feet of torque, and it is perfectly adequate. 0 to 60 expected to come up in somewhere around 8 seconds. Its party piece is a launch gear, which may not provide for actual launch sensations, but it does help for linear acceleration. And then once it switches out of that first gear, you have the standard benefits of a CVT, which is a smooth response and an increase in efficiency. And while I talk more about everything in my full review, your highway pulling power here is good, but I will say that the turbocharged competition do have a grunt advantage, especially when it comes to just having a more usable power band. This thing, while not dead at low RPMs, does kind of need to be wrung out. And once you're at higher speeds, cabin noise is okay. The thing that struck me as weird was they removed the independent rear suspension. So now we have a torsion rear. On this really abused road, the Corolla is still really comfortable. Even if I'm driving obnoxiously, this thing, it does come off as controlled and pretty composed. There is just a little bit more jitteriness around the rear due to that torsion beam suspension, but it's so insignificant that even though I am still upset that they just removed it for base buyers only, like even the LE hybrid still gets it, it's more of a details kind of issue than one that you will actually be able to notice. Even if you live on an abysmal winding road, this should work fine as it feels plenty in control. So Toyota's decision makes sense, as the type of person that just wants the best of best likely isn't buying the base version anyway. And really, the Corolla SE that I drove not too long ago was such a comfortable, good handling vehicle that detracting IRS is far from the end of the world. Throwing the thing around some corners here, a very light steering feel, but it's direct. It feels pretty precise. It's not Mazda 3 when it comes to natural feeling, and it also is more numb, but that's not really why you're picking up a Corolla. So when it comes to the trade-offs they've made to meet this price point, I think it's still a good deal. Now, of course, you can get an LE with the hybrid, and that is going to have substantially less power. Even though it was bumped this year, it's still just making 138 horsepower. However, from what I've found with Toyota hybrids in the past, they still have a great response because of their eCVT. It changes ratios using an electric motor, so it can get to where it needs to be in the power band very fast. And then you'll have a faint but instant response from the drive motor as well. For just $1,300 more, this is an awesome value. And they get gas mileage that can challenge a Prius. Plus, for 2023, you can get an LE all-wheel drive Corolla if you want, but it has to be in the hybrid configuration. It just adds an extra motor around back. Even if you don't want to go with an electrified model for either longevity purposes or initial cost, you're going to get good gas mileage. And the LE steps things up from the others because it has skinnier tires. Even though this does come in right below 23 grand, all Corollas will have Toyota's Safety Sense 3.0, which does have adaptive cruise, lane assist, autonomous braking, but adds more intersection support. It can detect pedestrians, and for 3.0, they actually add over-the-air updates. And in case you haven't seen my other videos on the Corolla, this generation has been quite reliable. Overall, I've always found a charm in driving something that's base and cheap. And I think I would really love to see like a manual transmission in this. I think that would have handily made this my personal favorite bargain car, but as it sits, I think it hits the stuff that Corolla buyers really want. The comfort, handling, practical cabin, and straightforward nature are key parts of the recipe, still present on the LE. While there are a lot of people who want their cars to pamper them with flashy accenting, upscale touches, turbo torque, and maximum screenage, the base Corolla does what a Toyota should do in a package that's just nice enough. While your options for a 23 grand sedan have been dwindling lately, you can rest assured that Toyota still has a car worth your time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then leave a like to help me shock the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe and hit the bell for more, and follow me on Patreon for additional content. I'll catch you in the next one.